saw new colors on the calendar. Oh,
Okay.
it started. I better shut up.
Thank you, Council, very much. Staff, Council, welcome very much to our budget meeting. We'll call the meeting to order at 4 p.m. Although this is a virtual meeting, we'll attempt to record, stream live, and publish in accordance to Council's electronic recording meeting policy. Today's meeting may be streamed live as well and recorded and published on the Southwest Middlesex YouTube channel. Council, is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest or the general nature thereof? Seeing none, we will move on. The agenda has been circulated to you. We have, Jill, I have not been advised of any additions. Council, if you are satisfied with the agenda as it is, I'll accept a motion that we accept it as circulated. Thank you, Councillor Bartlett. Seconder. Councillor McGill. Questions? And all in favor? Carried. The staff reports are before you. The CAO is 4A and Finance Department 4B. Jill, thanks very much for bringing us together for this, and I'll let you take the floor and advise Council of your report.
Sure. And Kristen, I didn't know if do you want to kick it off and then turn it over to me? That'd be fine with me.
Yeah, I can do that. So this is, we've started doing this the last few years, the departmental business plans, and I guess it's a good way to lead into the council budgeting process. It has staff kind of looking at what they've done in the past year and kind of getting their game plan together and how they would like to see their department move forward in the coming year. And then, so by communicating that with council, then it kind of sets the stage for what you'll see in the financial presentations to follow. That's probably the best way to describe it. I did push the survey back another 2 weeks because we had only had like 77 responses. So I'll present that at the next meeting, and it'll still be in advance of actually seeing the finalized operating budget. So really, I was just hoping that you would have some input from the ratepayers before you had to make any decisions on budgeted items. So we'll still be good for that, but just not tonight. So if Jill wants to start with hers.
Yeah, I would love to. Okay, well, thank you, Council, very much. It's been an interesting year, and I think that it was, looking ahead, continue to be an interesting year. We're still very, very much impacted by an ongoing emergency and a pandemic. And I've said this before, but I would say it again. It is not business as usual and has not been since March of 2020. So I really think it's worthwhile taking a moment to commend staff and council for their responses and ensuring that we continue to meet the services that council has established for the municipality, for the public, continue to provide those as best we can within changing emergency requirements that the province is setting, that the medical officer of health has set, and still managing to deliver what it is that people are expecting. We've had to pivot, as one of those favorite words in the last year and a half have been used quite often. But the pandemic really has made a huge impact to the operations and the day-to-day business. And I think that the staff have done a really wonderful job in responding to that. And not just the staff for Southwest Middlesex, but the contracted service providers that deliver services as well. So just as an example, say, for instance, one of the things that has changed In 2020, we had 25 complaints come in for bylaw enforcement, and that was probably up from 2019. But in 2021, so far, we've had triple that. So just to think about how, it changes the world in which we're living. People are paying attention to things. So they're at home more often. We've seen it, other municipalities saying the same thing. So that just impacts the service level that we're providing. And our provider in that case is contracted staff. As well, I still want to compliment the contracted staff for water. They've responded to the challenges of some water line breaks and still managing to keep residents safe, while also, dealing with some challenging situations at the lake over which we really have no control. I know that the members who are part of the Tri-County Water Board attended last night and had some discussions about what potential options there might be to dealing with colored water when the lake inverts, but it's just a natural phenomenon at Lake Erie, but it impacts the color of the water when that lake switches over. So some terrific, responses in the middle of the pandemic, as well for building services. I would hear from folks in the city of London that a building permit is taking a significant amount of time to get approved at that level. And we are still able to turn that around very quickly, and not only a great service being provided to the residents and the developers, but we also switched internally the whole system in which we do that, which was tremendous accomplishment at the beginning of this year. So I wanted to take a moment to reflect on that, to say this has been a tough year. And I would say there's also anyone who's providing public service, there's a level of stress that has hung over people for this entire pandemic, just with the amount of additional responsibility and trying to figure out how to do things the best way. So it's been difficult, and thanks for the opportunity to say that, but I really think it impacts us on an operational level. So the time to acknowledge that in discussion about our service strategy. So I'll end with that, but I think that council is fairly well familiar at this point with the operations of the CAO clerk and within that department. And so that functions as the oversight for the staff. It's the key conduit between council and staff, and responsibility for being the key advisor to council. And within that, there's also land use responsibility, economic development and communications, bylaw enforcement, CBO, building inspector, and lots of partnership relations within the sector. So between governments, between municipalities, etc. So the next year, we will see a real focused effort in the clerk side of the world with an election upcoming. So we have been preparing for that. Council did approve an alternative election, which keeps us in line with the other municipalities. And so that's reflected in the budget for this year. And we have been raising some funds for that for the whole term. And I would also say it's been nice that I've had the opportunity to be asked to be a member of a working group with MPAC on municipal elections. So working with representatives from MPAC, actually Elections Canada and Elections Ontario as well, because in 2024, there's going to be a switch to how voters lists are made, but also representatives across the province, so Toronto and Ottawa and Guelph and smaller municipalities as well, like ours. But it will be the focus of both myself and the deputy clerk, as well as administrative staff who assist in providing support and answering questions as things start to get more exciting within municipal election. On the planning side, we have been having those conversations to try and move forward with an official plan that review and having the county provide that service. So we've had a number of discussions over the years. The county has offered that they would be able to do it, just in a timeline that maybe took a little bit longer than what we would have liked, but still is coming up with an option that I think is reasonable for us to move ahead with. The other option, and some other of the local municipalities have chosen this in order to get things done in a expedited manner, is to contract with a consultant to undertake that work. But to date, we have been aiming to work with county services to undertake that review. So I've had a recent conversation with the director of planning about this, and this is the way in which we are expecting to move forward. The modeling study that Public Works has underway with water and wastewater is also something that is necessary to support an official plan review as well. So some of these things coming together at the right time, so that the right information is there to make decisions about growth and what the community should look like in the future. I would also say that on the planning side, as well as just the development side, this is something I think council members of the public have heard. There's a real desire for some additional assistance through our office to move development applications along, and making sure from start to finish they can have some questions answered. There's also, in my opinion, I have seen the need for some assistance to the other departments to help make sure that everything flows through the entire way. So we look at applications for planning and development, and there's every single department is involved at a different phase. But the municipality hasn't had that much development except for the last couple of years, where there has been a real interest in that. And we know that with a new plan of subdivision and other plans of subdivision coming into play, and site plans, that's a process that I think we could better provide to the public with some additional human resources. So that's one of the things that I'm suggesting in my department, because I think it can provide a significant amount of assistance on the public works side, as well as the finance side, the planning support. And in my conversations with county planning, they have identified that one of the ways that the local municipality could support them to try to get quicker response times from the local planner is so that the local planner isn't the one doing all of the tracking of development applications, if it gets taken on locally. So in light of that, and the need to make sure that once we have, so say we look at the subdivision of Tanya, that was a process whereby existing plan of subdivision, and then a development agreement to the actual work being undertaken, and now working towards assumption of that. There would be benefit in all of the planning side, the administrative side, the finance side, and the public works side, to make sure that every box is getting ticked at the right time, and that at the end of it, we are then able to take that information that's from the developer and include and incorporate that into our asset management plan, because those roads become our roads once the assumption bylaw is passed by council. So I see some benefit to that. I suspect the reason we haven't had a position like that in the past is just because there hasn't necessarily been the need, but I'm seeing it more now. And I think some of the members of council have spoken to me about that and what they have heard from the community as well. So that is one thing that I see recommended changing within the CAO clerk department. With respect to building services, I touched on that a little bit. We've tried a couple of things, and I think we've landed on something pretty terrific with having a contracted service with Middlesex Center. We are continuing to go through an exercise for the buildings fee review, and with the two other local municipalities of Adelaide Metcalfe and North Middlesex. And the consultant who's doing that work has been working with all three of the CAOs as well as the CBO to deliver something in very short order to that committee. And then the committee will review, make its recommendation to each of the councils. And I expect that to be part of a comprehensive fees and charges bylaw review. So that's, again, another component that we've been working on and expect to see finalized not too long from now, and in order to be presented to council for its consideration. I touched on bylaw enforcement as well already, but and maybe this is something council members have heard as well. We are seeing people who are they're paying more attention to what's happening outside their door because they've been at home a lot more. So we are seeing more complaints that have come in. I don't know that this will continue for next year or not, but certainly it's something that's happening in other municipalities as well, where people are expecting pretty immediate service and have concerns about sometimes what they're seeing. So there's been a lot more activity than there has been in the past, which has meant at times that the delivery is a little slower than we would like, because the resources of that contracted service is not limitless either. In terms of the CAO role, it's pretty much the same. It's got a number of hats that I'm wearing, including human resources. Health and safety has played a huge part of what I have been working with and what the senior management team have been working with in the last year and a half. So we have a number of COVID-19 health and safety procedures, as you know, and it's been an ever-changing environment to try to make sure we're responding appropriately in a way that keeps all of the staff protected when they're in the workplace, and also has the benefit of keeping our residents protected as well. So a lot of the health and safety has been top of mind for everything we've been doing for the last year and a half. Economic development has been, I think, moving along quite wonderfully. So even though it's been a time of, change, there has been some real progress on the economic development front, where we have seen that committee and the position of the economic development and communications coordinator really be able to move things along and get actions done that were identified in the economic development strategy that council adopted. With respect to information technology, we are continuing to work with the county. That has been a successful relationship as well. I would see moving forward in that manner for the short and long-term future. The service that they have provided has just been tremendous. Again, back to what has the need been during a pandemic? It's been a significant need to switch things so that we're more reliant on IT services and different ways of doing things. And they've been responsive and helpful in implementing a number of the changes that staff and council have put forward for both front-facing and behind the scenes work. The accessibility coordinator, there's a new accessibility coordinator with the County of Middlesex. So the former one has moved on to a new role with another municipality, and there is a new accessibility coordinator, and just continuing to work with that individual in that role to provide service to help us meet our requirements. And I'm not going to go through all the legislative standards or all of the things that considered, but I did want to touch on some of the things that are linked to both the strategic plan and the asset management plan. So the strategic plan that council adopted, I'll have a report to council in the next month or so, which I'm really proud to say is going to demonstrate that the goals that council set have been met, which again, I would say is a tremendous, a successful activity that we have undertaken, and a real kudos to council and staff that we've been able to continue to move forward and try new things while also responding to a really changing and fluid situation. The asset management plan, as you know, council adopted for consideration in the budget. And I mentioned that at the time, this has been a tremendous amount of work that staff have undertaken with the consultant that we've been working with. And that strategy really demonstrates, and will, I suspect, for every single municipality that finalizes their plan, that there's a gap between how much money is being spent on capital infrastructure and how much needs to be set aside. So we've identified a strategy for the next 20 years on how we can try to close some of that gap. Some of it will be putting money aside for things that we know are coming 10 years down the road, but some of it will be about spending money right now to upgrade existing infrastructure that really needs to be either maintained at a different level or replaced. So that asset management plan is a huge and significant document that's really going to help put council on track for making their financial decisions for this term of council, next term of council, and in the future as well. With respect to the achievements of 2021, I've touched on some of these already. The year 2 implementing action items of the economic development strategy have all been met. The website has been redeveloped. There have been community improvement plan and engagement has been adopted, and we've already seen some of the benefits of that in place. So just wonderful work on that front, and we can actually see it put into place on our Main Street in Glencoe. The electronic document management, the project that we selected for this year was, it's been completed now as well. So the property files all got moved into Laserfiche, and that was not just one person, primarily one person that really took that time, but other staff as well, helping to review those files and make sure that anything that was being destroyed met the destruction requirements of the records retention bylaw, and then keeping what we can to help us in the future with moving forward with electronic document management. I touched on the municipal election preparation. We're working with all of the local municipalities other than Newbury is the only one that is not part of the alternative voting method, but the rest of us have been meeting to prep for the election in 2022. I've touched on the official plan review. We've also revised the electronic agenda platform, undertaken public engagement in different ways, done some service delivery reviews in different ways through joint efforts where the county has often been the lead in getting the funding, and then participants from each of the local municipalities have helped to move the conversation along so that we have some tangible outcomes to report on, because that's how we got the funding initially, and then move forward to implementation if council chooses. The electronic building permit software, as you know, we have the cloud permit process in place, and that's been working very well. The asset management plan, we've met that goal. The community safety and well-being plan has been adopted by council, and development charges are underway. So along with that, I've talked already about the ongoing COVID-19 response and continuing to provide essential services to the public. We've met that and supported staff, as well as continued to meet as an ECG during the declared emergency. So something else that's just what we've been doing, infrastructure investments and application-based funding. So I listed some of those where staff take the time to apply to and then present to council the opportunity to have an agreement in place for different types of funding opportunities. There's a lot there. And I included some of the smaller ones because even with those, you are putting forward an application. It takes time, staff, and resources to make that happen, but it can have a huge benefit to the overall movement forward for the municipality because we get additional funds to help support our initiatives. There are also other types of funding arrangements that we do receive, and those also take staff time in that we have to report back on a regular cycle of what we have done with the specific funds. So in terms of some of the development, you know that there was a petition related to the local improvement charges on John Street. That's at the tendering process phase. We had development agreement in Middlemiss where it's kind of complicated and technical, but we managed to find a way to work it through so that there's some new homes being built in Middlemiss. The endorsement of the Dobie subdivision at that end of Glencoe is in place, which was approved by the county as well. We've seen temporary use agreements. We see the ongoing construction in Melbourne on James Street, consideration for plans of subdivision on Stella. We talked a little bit about the fact that there was awards for the newly launched Community Improvement Plan program. There's a beautiful new daycare facility that council can be very proud of and it's now in operation. So right at the other edge of Glencoe, that lovely facility that has new people in there, brand new people and brand new building. And it's just a tremendous asset to the community as well as a new asset for the municipality. A lot of bylaw updates. I know you've had some fencing, signs, animals, fees and services is coming your way shortly. The discussion and decision related to backyard chickens, that took a lot of time and effort for council and staff to really dig into whether or not that was right for the community. A new communication strategy that was adopted and the activities associated with that have been implemented. We are continuing to advocate for the municipality in both sort of just general arrangements with railways as well as those specifically related to the Drainage Act. We have had good delegations, I think, at both Roma and AMO, and I suggest we continue with those, keeping in touch with those provincial representatives so that they know the issues that we see and we can advocate on behalf of the ratepayers in Southwest Middlesex. We've got the Thames Valley District School Board. The mayor and deputy mayor made a very good presentation to that group, and I think they really have a solid understanding of what it is that the issues are that may affect Southwest Middlesex if the Ministry of Education lifts the moratorium on closures, particularly closures for rural schools. And I know there is more conversation that the trustees are looking to have locally in our community as well. We adopted the acceptable use of technology policy. We've got some certified site activity going on. There was consideration of changes to council composition. The landfill sites, there has been the approval of closure plan for the Limerick landfill site, and we will be hearing from Golder and Associates in the not too distant future about the ECA for the Trillium landfill site. We had a fire agreement put in place with Melbourne. As I mentioned, the building services, the contract that we have with Middlesex Center, and just as recently as last night, the Tri-County Water Board agreed on an updated agreement that'll be circulated to all of the local municipalities. We have a newly appointed integrity commissioner, and I mentioned already that you're going to see a report on the strategic plan outcomes to see that a lot of what was established as the goals for this term of council have now been met. So looking ahead, it's going to be some of the same, continuing on with land use planning document consolidation, as well as that official plan review. I suspect that will be a time-consuming endeavor over the next year. Records management and policies and procedures carry on with our move towards more electronic document management systems, particularly because the paper system that was supported through a licensing arrangement with the county is coming to an end. That firm that the county had a licensing through is no longer going to be supporting that. So that move towards electronic document management, clearly the right one, because we have to move away from paper. The strategic plan and the asset management plan, I think we will continue to see reports on what are the next steps. As you heard in that presentation from May, the asset management plan, there's certainly more goals that need to be met in 2024, and in order for us to get there, there's work that has to get done. So I think that that economic development plan, I maybe won't touch on all of it, but I had a lot of bullets there for what it is that could be considered for the future as well, and how we can promote to get even more out of that. The election preparation, there's a cycle at the end of 2022. So even though the election is over, there's still some things that carry on into 2023. So that cycle goes on for a couple of years. Then we'll be planning for council orientation and education sessions for a newly formed council. We've been looking into engineering service plans for the certified industrial site to see if that's an option to help promote that site for sale. We will then be looking to an updated strategic plan for the next term of council as well. The development charges, if they are adopted by council, will then need to be implemented, which does require some additional effort and communication to the public and the development community. And then we're looking at the branding proposal, as well as more implementation of the community safety and well-being plan. So I'd take you down to the staff resources, because that's the newest piece of what it is that I'm recommending for council's consideration in 2022, that we move to having an additional staff person associated with that particular role, what I would call a development review coordinator. And I've listed what I would expect would be the key responsibilities in there, and done an evaluation so that it could be placed on the grid if council chooses to move forward in that direction. So we've got a realistic estimate of how much that would cost to have such a person in a full-time responsibility. I do think that role was going to help coordinating, as I mentioned. It's the project side, it's the coordination, it's the tracking, it's also asset management, and some community outreach as well. And the training and ongoing development and IT, I don't see anything, frankly, very new or different. It's continuing to participate in the staff associations, as well as supporting council in delegations by attending conferences as well. And then IT, any additional hardware and software, I'm not seeing really big changes on that side for this, other than if there is a new position that is confirmed by council, we would need to support that with IT. So that's what I have for council today. I'm sure that there's questions that will arise either now or as we actually start to see the numbers come into place. So I turn it over to the chair to, if there's questions now, or if you want to carry on and move to the finance department business plan.
Okay, thank you, Jill, very, very much. Council, the whole purpose of this meeting is a precursor to talking numbers, so to speak. This will put us in a good position to examine the numbers. We have a vision of what's going forward, what our discussion points will be, and we'll look forward to that. Thank you, Jill. We will entertain questions to Jill at this time. And of course, we'll not forget Kristen in this. Kristen has more to present to us. I understand. I would be amiss not to welcome Greg Storms to the meeting and Colin Schewel. Thank you very much for joining us. Denny, thank you for being in the background. But any questions that you'd like to ask Jill through the chair, go ahead. Thank you, Councillor Cowell, go ahead.
With this position for development support, and I know that a big part of it would be helping with the new developments that might be coming to town. And I think you touched on it a little bit in the sense that this person could potentially help. Is it possible with economic development and community development and not just be a development tech? And if that's the case, we've had a lot of contract positions come up in the last year or so. Is there anybody that we think we can, because we've done this before, where we've had the opportunity to look at our staff and say, with this staff member in mind, I think we can get the most out of this position if we do it this way. Is there something we're considering? Is that something we're considering with this position?
Thank you, Councillor Cowell. Go ahead, Jill.
Sure. Thank you, Mayor Mayhew. So Councillor Cowell, I would suggest that the role is more associated with community development. So economic development primarily associated with trying to attract and retain businesses. This would certainly support that in that it might facilitate an easier process and applications, but more around the community development in that new like people moving in, which requires houses, etc. It's more support on that side. So, the types of qualifications that we're looking for is someone who is going to be terrific at project management, is very detail oriented, probably got some great technical skills of GIS, perhaps even some of the experience and exposure to engineering technicians and technologists to support the public works side of things, and being able to upload and input information that once you have the assets that are now within the municipal responsibility, making sure that gets uploaded, and then supporting finance as well, and making sure that they're aware that, when a security deposit needs to be released, or if a deposit or a security is coming in, specifically what it's for. So it's a lot that I've actually am asking within this role. So it will really depend on whether there's interest in somebody making a shift like that within their current, if that aligns with their current career goals, or not. So I'm not sure I can answer whether or not we've got a particular person in mind yet, but within our office. But those are the types of skills that we're looking for to help support the team.
Thank you, Jill. Any follow-up, Councillor Cowell? Okay, thank you very much. Council will continue asking questions. Jill, just for a lack of better words, the Development Review Coordinator is a point person, so to speak, that we can use for development. And I'm sure all of us, we hear many good things, but I'm sure that we have heard some concerns about delays on development and things like this. And hopefully such a position may possibly mitigate some of this concern. And Council will look forward to those discussions in the future. Any further questions, Council? Mark, Mike, Deputy Mayor, Doug, to Jill on this? Yes, Mark, go ahead, please. Councillor McGill.
Thank you, Mayor Mayhew, to Jill through the mayor. Could this development review coordinator possibly even help people that are involved in farm severances? Give them a little help on knowing what they're supposed to do. I sometimes get comments, you know, we set out all the terms, or the planning department, what has to be done, and yet people seem kind of unsure. What should I be doing? How do I go about this? Would that possibly development review coordinator be able to help them with that a bit too?
So through you, Mayor Mayhew, I would say yes. And even if it isn't a direct necessarily point person, it could be that, but it might also help to take away some of the things that we currently have onto other positions. So both the deputy clerk position and the planner who is through the county, I think there's the potential that we could take pieces away through this additional role so that they might be able to better respond to some of what it is that you're commenting on, because that is what it is that I have had in mind as well. I have heard that, and I'm sure some of you have heard that as well. With the severance applications, having somebody, if they've only done it once and they're only going to ever do it once in their life, they might not be very familiar. And it's helpful to have somebody who is able to work with them, touch base, and make sure they're on the right track and continuing to meet the conditions so that the severances don't lapse and they're at where they want to be at within the time frame that they're hoping for. So to me, it's either supporting that particular part of the community and the development side, or else it's taking some of the things away from those other two roles so that they're better able to respond to those kind of, provide that kind of assistance.
Thank you, Jill. Councillor McGill, I've experienced your same concern as well. Very often people will say, what do I have to do to meet compliance? And very often planning do not have the time. They're so busy to really sit down in earnest and walk them through it or take them by the hand. And possibly this may, the ramifications of a position like this may go beyond subdivision development and go into the planning services in terms of assisting our ratepayers. We all sometimes are concerned about how slow things move in municipal government, and this may help. Deputy Mayor, go ahead, ask your question. Yeah, are you on mute there? Okay. Yeah. Oh, no, I can't hear you yet, Mary Gay. Keep trying. Maybe on the bottom there? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, gosh, we're doing hand signals here, but anyway, I'm sure Deputy Mayor Wilkins will be back with us in a few. Mary Gay, you keep pushing buttons there and just say hello when you have got audio there. I'll give you a thumbs up. Any further questions? If not, Jill, thank you very much. We look forward to those discussions in the future with you. Kristen, you will continue your presentation, and I certainly want to ask invite council the opportunity to ask questions. We can do it following. You have some additional information you'd like to give council?
I do. I've got the finance business plan.
Okay.
As everybody knows, in finance, that's where the magic really happens. We're kind of at, I know everybody always laughs at that. We're kind of at the beginning of the process and at the end. So we develop the budgets ahead of time so that the rest of the staff kind of have a map to follow for the rest of the year, and then levy the taxes at the, in the middle of the year so that we've got the funds to pay for the projects in the budget. And then at the end of the year, of course, reconcile and do the financial statements and the reporting to the ministry and of course to council. So that in a nutshell is what finance is responsible for. Now, in specific to Southwest Middlesex, the finance department also looks after the municipal insurance portfolio so that we can make sure that we are covered and hopefully risks are being mitigated effectively. A big part, an increasingly bigger part of finance's role is the asset management of all of our resources. So the new legislation that's been introduced is very integral in, well, finance has always kept, a log of our assets. Now we're being asked to rate the assets and implement that into longer term financial planning for council. So if I scroll down to, most of this is similar to previous years. So if I go down to our program achievements, like Jill said earlier, we did struggle a bit, as everybody did, with COVID. And most of you are aware that we have a long-term staff member off on a medical leave right now. So trying to cover that position as well has been a bit of a challenge. So we had been working on trying to get as many invoices as possible electronically. COVID actually expedited that a lot so that we can, process them from home. We have access to the system. So as long as we're getting access to the invoices electronically, we could continue to process those. As Jill mentioned, we'll be bringing the fees and services an updated bylaw for your review. I'm still working on implementing a new budget software that hopefully we'll be able to use next year for council to review. It's got a bit of a different dashboard and some fancier reports that we can use for the analysis and hopefully to project the budget a little bit further in the future. We did do some ergonomic staff training, in a large part because we had some staff working remotely and did find that is a big consideration. Changing, you usually have your work set up kind of the way you like at the right eye level. But all of a sudden, when everybody was working from home, we found that people were at the kitchen table or, hunching too much. So that was definitely timely. I've deferred the update on the policy for tax sales. So the legislation has changed to allow us to pursue a tax sale after 2 years. And it used to be 3 years. So we're still following the 3-year rule. And really, the only reason that I didn't move on that this year is because we were kind of in a holding pattern with tax sales due to COVID. So we'll look for that in probably next year. We've been working with the county on looking for a joint payroll system perhaps, or even a joint purchasing of a payroll system that we could incorporate into our workflow here. We're still very manual in the timesheets being submitted and input into the system. And our main financial system and our payroll system are not the same, nor do they speak to each other. So we're manually moving information back and forth. That always leaves room for error, and it's not obviously the most efficient way to do things. So hopefully we've got a new solution for that coming. We have helped the recreation staff in sourcing a new online booking software, which is pretty exciting to see how it's going to roll out. So really where finance comes in there is to, help program the back end stuff so that, and import the information again into our accounting system. So I think that that's a big advancement on the recreation side. And I'm hoping we'll really minimize some of the technical aspects that were going on in the office. So in with that, we'll use hopefully credit cards. I'm still working on getting that set up. Customers can pay online for things like swimming lessons or booking a hall. That again minimizes the traffic coming into the office, enables people to do more things online. I already messaged the asset management plan, mentioned, sorry. We're continuing to work on the development charges and the investment policy. We haven't moved on. And the biggest reason for that is I don't want to invest our idle funds just yet because we've got some bigger projects coming up. So I think that we'll use most of those funds, and then going forward, we'll look at some solutions to make sure that council is aware and approving of the methods that we use to grow our funds if we can. So looking forward, the investment analysis, we're going to have to update the water and sewer rates in the near term. Working with the county for a joint procurement officer, hopefully transitioning some of our financial records to Laserfish, update our server, and again, moving forward to develop processes for development charges going forward. Hopefully automating accounts payable, succession planning, and continuing to update the asset management policy, and hopefully incorporate some longer term budgeting and forecasting. And I think that is about it. I don't foresee any changes in the staffing levels needed within the finance department. And I think that covers everything.
Thank you, Kristen, very much for that report. We appreciate it. The chair does, and I'm sure council do. Council, this is an opportunity to ask Kristen any questions related to the business development plan, the finance. Certainly, I'm watching your hands. Please go ahead. We're well on schedule. Yes, Councillor Bartlett.
Thank you, through you, Mayor, to Kristen. At the Roma conference, they mentioned that a lot of insurance companies are not covering cyber insurance any longer. Do we know how our insurance company is feeling? And if so, do we have to look at the different numbers come budget time?
That's a good question. We are, I've incorporated another significant increase, 17% into the budget this year for insurance. Again, I think they're finding more and more, what I'm hearing is the pool is shrinking of people that will provide the services, provide the insurance coverage to municipalities. And cyber's been a risky venture lately, especially with more and more things moving online. We are still covered, and I haven't heard that we won't be. But I do know that the fees are going up mostly as a result of increased claims and a decreased number of people that will provide the insurance to us.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Councillor Bartlett. Thank you, Kristen. Any further questions? Give you a moment there. Yes, Councillor Scholdice, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Mayhew. This is a question for Kristen. I'm just curious on the tax sale properties moving from 3 years to 2 years. Will that come before council for consideration before a decision is made?
I can certainly bring it to council's attention. I think it's legislated in the Municipal Act. So none of these are ever textbook. I would say my first course of action is always to, try and work with the owners of the properties and make any kind of arrangements that I can. It's certainly not worth, it's certainly not our intention to ever kick somebody out of their home and sell their property. So I make every attempt I can to try and avoid that process, if at all possible. But it is in the Municipal Act. So I think that, Jill, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that it's up to the discretion of the treasurer.
That's correct. It is spelled out pretty specifically in legislation. So the process that the treasurer must follow related to a tax sale, there's a lot of requirements for notification, so that the type of situation that Kristen is alluding to, yeah, that's not what we want. We would prefer that we get our taxes through other means. We don't really want to sell anybody's property in order to achieve the taxes, but that is an available tool that is spelled out in legislation. But it relies on the treasurer to be responsible for handling that.
Really, I guess as best I can, my job is to make sure that we never get into the situation where we're owed more than we could recover, I think, from the property. So that we're never in a write-off situation where we're losing money. So as long as I can keep ahead of that and I am making reasonable gains with the property owner, then I can live with that.
Thank you. Any follow-up, Councillor Scholdice? You're okay? Thank you. Mike?
Yes, there is.
Yes, go ahead, Mike. Yep.
I just wondered if it would be possible for council to get a copy of the legislation, just that we're all aware of it if we're asked on it.
I'm sure that could be arranged. Administration will get that circulated to council. It'll be easily copied from the Municipal Act. Just to reiterate Kristen's message, I've worked with Kristen before. I know I've seen firsthand experience how she works with people and tries to accommodate the situations as they arise, and she is very good at it. And it is an administrative move of last resort, so to speak. Thank you. The chair will call again. Any further questions? Well, I'll take the privilege of asking the one short question. Kristen, looking down the road into 2022 budget discussions, are there any challenges you see before us that are front and center? If there was one or two, could you reiterate what they might be?
I could, this is going to be a challenging budget. I would say the inflation rate is still currently very high at 4.4%. We know our insurance, we're anticipating a 17% increase on that. And we have quite a few projects on the go and some that we're going to have to move on. The landfills are going to be costly. So I think that it is going to be a tough budget year, I think, for everybody.
Okay, thank you, Kristen. We have our work cut out for us. Councillor McGill.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Mayhew. Through the mayor to Kristen. Whereabouts is impact at with reassessing people's properties? I think it was last year they didn't do that.
Our growth from assessment is very low this year, very, very low. It's we have a bit of growth, and it's mostly from new builds, or I think sometimes in the case of a property sale, they will have increased the value, but not the general. The phase in assessment was paused, so we're not picking up any revenue from that.
It's 17 hours.
Even in 2022,
No,
there's not going to be increases in assessed value.
no, they freeze. What we use for calculation of the taxes in 2022 is frozen as of October 31st this year. So they use rate net the values as of basically November 1st to tax next year. So yeah, no assessment increases this year, really.
Thank you, Mark. That answers your question. No follow-up? Okay. All right. Yes, Councillor Cowell, go ahead.
Through the chair to Councillor McGill, at AMO, I sat in on a session that MPAC put on to discuss this in detail about how it would impact our assessment going forward, and potentially the mill rate. And what they had said is because of the pandemic, they weren't doing reassessments for upwards to until 2023. And then in 2023, what would happen is they would take whatever the value of the homes were and only increase it by about 25%. So they take 4 years to get to the point the houses would be. So we won't see that increase total for another 4 or 5 years as a result. And what they said was that in most of southwestern Ontario, the housing prices valued had increased 100%, which meant that we will see an assessment increase potentially next year of 25% in 2023 is what MPAC was suggesting. So we might, even if a 0% tax increase, if everybody's homes goes up potentially 25%, that's a huge hit to the homeowners next year, potentially is how MPAC addressed it.
That's what I understand as well. They always go in a 4-year assessment increase cycle, so 25% a year starting in 2023, yes.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Cowell. Council, we have some time left. Any further questions? Thank you, Kristen, very much for that presentation. We look forward to crunching the numbers. I certainly can see that we have our work cut out for us as a council.
Yeah.
And we'll get through this, council. We'll work as a team and try to get the numbers right. And we have good advice from our staff and our administration. We'll certainly look forward to those discussions. Council, with that discussion appears to be done on this, would someone entertain a motion that we receive the CAO's Department Business Plan as information? Would someone move that, please? Thank you, Councillor Cowell. A seconder for that, Councillor McGill. Any questions? All in favor of receiving the report for information? Carried. And if someone would please move that the Finance Department Business Plan be received for information, would someone entertain a motion for that? Councillor Bartlett and seconded by Councillor Scholdice. Questions? All in favor of the Finance Department's Business Plan being received? Thank you very much. Carried. Number 5 is unfinished business. Jill, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think there is any. Yes, go ahead, Jill.
Sure. So the operations department, if council wants to look at part of that, that's as 4C, business plans for both facilities and recreation. But if you would prefer to wait till the next meeting, we're fine.
I think we have time to get into that too. I think that was an addition on that agenda, Jill, and I missed that. So if you could introduce it, 4C, it would be great. How long do you think it would take approximately?
Well, I would say that Greg is going to be the one to be reporting to council on his business plan. If he wants to start with facilities and recreation or public works, I think I know council has a meeting at 7 p.m. So we don't want to keep things too long, but if he can kick it off to get into part of one of the plans, then then we can pick it up at 5:30 or 5:45, if that's okay with council and the chair.
Thank you, Jill. And Greg, we certainly, this is extremely important, and it is a significant part of the budgeting process, your department, Greg. So we do not want to rush you in any manner at all. Greg, if you would just perhaps like to give an introduction to your business plan, and we will certainly make sure that we give you lots of time in the next budget meeting to bring it to a conclusion. But certainly, and I think we will bear in mind that if we could come near to adjournment at 5:30, it'll give council a chance to have a little break. And Greg, I'm not pinning you down on that. So if you're in the middle of something, you certainly can continue. But on or about 5:30, 5:35, 5:40, we'll try to get out of here. And Greg, you take the floor. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Mary Ellen, and through you to council. I will start with the facilities and rec business plan. We'll give you a little caution, though. It is feeding time at my house here for the dogs, so I may get interrupted with some barking, etc. But
Okay.
Just have some patience, I guess. So yeah, I will start out with the department business plan for facilities and recreation. And I don't have to do a lot of explaining on what is what this department does, but you know, the department is responsible for the day-to-day operation and programming in the areas of facility and recreation. The department operates and maintains many different recreational facilities, from the arena to open spaces, dog parks, arboretums, play areas, sports fields, libraries, daycares, daycare building, train station, historical buildings, community centers, and is highly involved in the downtown beautification in all our downtowns in the hamlets. I have just in my plan, just basically have a brief description of those particular areas. I'll just kind of go through that quickly with you. The department operates a full service arena. The building is situated at the fair site. It's part of a large recreation complex and includes sport fields, curling club, outdoor public pool, building and room rentals. And it is a piece of property that we have two other partners and involved in the day-to-day operations of that facility. It does offer a fair bit of recreational opportunity for the residents of Southwest Middlesex. Community centers, department operates and maintains community centers in Appin and Wardsville. As everybody knows, we do own the building in Appin, and we are leasing space at the Hammond Lodge in Wardsville. Libraries, we have a new library that was built in the last couple years, maybe 2.5, 3 years now, since it was built just after I arrived there. But the department is responsible in the day-to-day operation of that building. Certainly the county provides the staffing, but we have to respond to that very similar because of existing agreements that are in place. Parks and open spaces, they would include everything from pavilions to baseball diamonds to the lease arrangement for the tennis court, arboretums, and dog park. I don't have to say too much about the train station and the historical buildings. Certainly the downtown beautification in all of the areas. That would include everything from putting up flower baskets, the new or the veteran flags that we have up that you see up there now. We have time where Canadian flags are up, and then certainly during the Christmas season, we have all the Christmas light installations that happen in those downtown areas. The department also looks after all the benches and waste containers, and certainly from my last presentation, I think I gave council a pretty good idea of the volume that we're dealing with. If we just look at waste containers, we're servicing about 50 of those units every week. Service delivery, and I have a note in here with regards to the restructuring that the municipality has gone through with regards to this department. I have a general comment on that with regards to both departments, facility and rec, and the high level of service delivery that we do have ongoing on a daily basis. And I think that everybody sitting around the council table would understand that, simply because when you do have issues, we do respond as prompt as we possibly can, and most times that's immediate. And we'd like to get those issues resolved and move forward. And the department has done an excellent job with the new restructuring because of the coordination in the field to make those responses happen. Certainly, I think we heard during the the Parks and Recreation Master Plan creation, that the community, and through the community surveys, that one of the most important things to new residents and residents in our municipality is the opportunity to participate in facilities and recreation and programs. So I point that out because that's a key factor with us moving forward. I will make a comment with regards to the Facilities and Rec Master Plan, completed and adopted by council. That was a major goal of the department. It was one of the sort of founding documents that we wanted in place to make sure that we did have, a huge amount of input from all the user groups that we deal with every day, the general public, staff, and council, and to get recommendations on how, and how council and how people and residents of Southwest Middlesex see recreation unfolding in the future. So key for me on that is that even in the preparation of the capital or in operations budget documents that we're working on right now, we have extracted some of those recommendations, and you will see those moving forward. Some of our key customers that we deal with, obviously we deal with council, we have a recreation committee, we have minor hockey, skating clubs, minor baseball, minor soccer, all the schools, various men's and adult hockey teams, slow pitch teams, fastball, men's and ladies soccer teams, healthy kids, and you can go on. There's all the different groups that this particular department deals with, and there are many, all the local volunteer associations, etc. Our core business and services, obviously the arena, our other facilities, such as the halls, meeting rooms, pavilions, arborettas, etc. And I've listed a lot of the service tasks associated with those. I'm not going to go through all of them, but if I just point out the fact that this particular department spent most of the summer taking care of 66 gardens in the municipality. Certainly at the beginning, we had a lot to learn, but by the end, I think we had a pretty good idea of what needs to be accomplished on that end. And I will make some comments with regards to that when we talk about some of the full-time staff units that and how the department is operated. We also every day deal in a fair number of legislated standards that we don't have any choice in the matter. These are things that are legislated, and we respond to those. It could be anything from a compressor room situation at the arena to employment standards situation within the department, or health and safety, Occupational Health and Safety Act issues itself. We deal with health units just to operate the pool and to make sure that it's operated safely. So we do have the links that we have also provided to the strategic plan. Those are consistent and have been consistent throughout, and I won't go through too many of those. Links to the municipal asset management plan. Generally, when if we talk a little bit about the asset management plan, and one of the things that we found in the recreation department is that we really haven't spent enough money to keep our facilities up to date. And I mean, it's pretty evident. I mean, if you look at the buildings in the Appin Park, they have very little work that's been accomplished on those buildings in the past, and they certainly show that. They show that they're tired and that they needed work. If you look at the building at Simpson Park, it's exactly the same situation. Just recently have found that, even the arena is suffering from aging equipment to the point where, our elevator is non-functional right now because we can't get parts for it because it's too old. And, we're also looking at the same kind of issues with the time clock at the arena. And this just happened to us this week. So it is one of those things that, we need to, specifically when the, communities are telling us that they want recreation, we have to make these commitments to our infrastructure. Otherwise, we're going to continue to fall farther behind. And, this department has been affected by aging equipment, even in its first year of operating in the newly restructured view. Everything from a pool heater that was so outdated that, it couldn't be used or couldn't be serviced by any company. That was one of the things, and our equipment associated. We don't see this in public works, but we certainly see it in facilities and rec, where the equipment is just not capable of performing the task. And if you look at our one lawnmower that we rely on a lot, I mean, it was in 3 times for major repairs, and it just became a challenge for the department. So I will touch on a few of the goals. This isn't a comprehensive list of what accomplishments have happened in the facilities and rec department, because there's many day-to-day operational things that happen out there that we have great accomplishments and great service levels. But we'll mention the daycare facility, which is now complete, and staff are responding there to keep that in a responding to any of the concerns that the tenant has there, that type of stuff. The joint health and safety issue of standard operating guidelines, those now we have in place. The downtown Glencoe beautification has happened. There will be more recommendations coming in the new budget with regards to the beautification downtown, what type of flowers, flower boxes, etc., that we would like to see down there. Certainly the decorative poles, the removal of all the trip hazards in downtown Glencoe has been a huge thing. I believe the trees itself, even though I like trees in the downtown, had reached their useful life, and we're starting to penetrate the surface. So the removal of those trip hazards was the big thing. Has cleaned it up, but we still need to do work down there. I think if you look at the situation in Wardsville, certainly we'd like to see more activity happening there. There's no doubt about that. And we continue to look at the municipality and the hamlets and sort of a comprehensive look at it, rather than just one particular department or one area itself. But saying that, Glencoe is the biggest downtown that we have, and will take the most to get that in order. We are currently working on the municipal office air quality situation. That is going to tender, which will be a roof replacement, and for all the HVAC units to be replaced there to provide safe air quality for staff at the building. We have run into a few issues with the train station deck and steps. The original thought there was that that one beam needed to be replaced. When we got under there and had a look, it needs a complete replacement. So I have put inputs into the new budget, which you'll see moving forward, to try to get a complete replacement of that deck. But we're not talking an inexpensive project. This is going to be expensive to replace that deck. Part of the issue that we have there is that there's very little drainage associated with that deck, and there is a cement foundation wall that surrounds the deck on the outside, which has caused a lot of the water to penetrate through there, and we're at times dumping a fair bit of water at the footing of that building, which has caused a lot of issues in the basement, and that's where we see this huge amount of moisture in that basement. So part of what we do there, we'll have to make sure that we have good drainage to get rid of water, because really what we're doing now is we have a big bathtub there, and when it rains, it just kind of fills it up, and then it infects the footing of the building. And water's never good for these type of facilities, because it'll cut your age of your building in half. So the rooftop railings, Municipal Office Historical Society, we're working towards that. We certainly were successful in replacing the roof at the Historical Society in Glencoe. That was on the list. We had diamond repairs. That stuff has been moved forward. Certainly the work at the Arboretus this year has been excellent. They've been better kept. We are in a position to move those back into and not have them all contracted to one contractor. So staff are working on a plan for that right now. Certainly we would like the idea of an expert looking after the trees, but feel the department can now take care of the rest of those two Arboretus moving forward. I already mentioned the Facilities and Rec Master Plan. The discussion of wood fiber is currently ongoing, and I've put in inputs in there in the 2022 budget to accommodate the new playground bases. If we were to put new playground bases in today, we would be putting in different than engineered fiber. So we have recommended in the capital budget moving forward this year that if council approves a new piece of play equipment, that the the base will be consistent with the new rubber product that's out there. The engineered fiber certainly, as we re-inputted that back into the capital budget for next year, and we would be going to areas like Wardsville, Simpson Park itself, and putting that engineered fiber in those existing pieces. Anything new we would do, and the play equipment at the pool, we would like a different surface for those. So they have trouble at the pool because of stones being in the pool, because it is a stone base. And if we put wood fiber in there, it would just be even worse than the situation than what we've got now. So certainly just a quick comment on the programming aspect of things, and Ashley's done a great job to implement these programs and have these moving forward. We have a lot of great comments. I only see this expanding in the future to, helping people with special events and helping all our volunteer organizations to move forward as a community. And I think the start of this program has been excellent. We've had the issues at Littleton Park in Wardsville. I'm still working on that. I'm trying to secure the ground penetrating radar, which has been very difficult to do, especially during COVID and some of the situations that we have in Canada right now for that type of a unit. There are just not a lot of them out there, and a lot of them are being used. Quick comment about heritage signs. All the signs are built and they're being put up right now. Certainly for 2022, some of our goals would be to, implement and to continue working to have the renovation project at the arena completed. And a lot of the same goals that we have as accomplishments in 2021 will continue with regards to, say, the asset management program, which is, a continued involvement from facilities and RAC in that particular program. We will have money in the budget to do condition assessments on our buildings, etc. And if you just kind of look at the comment with regards to the arena and the elevator, the lift device, and the clock, these are two things that would be included in the asset management program. And if it was done, if we were complete at this point, we would have these listed as separate assets. So we would have been told long ago that we needed to replace them. But we haven't had that luxury. So moving forward, this is our hope, is that, infrastructure like that will be brought to the attention of council through the asset management program and through the capital infrastructure plan. And, we can either set aside money to get these things done, but we won't be in the situation that we're in now, which is, with such aging infrastructure, and the way the world has changed, it's made it very difficult to get parts for this kind of stuff. So, and if you can, the cost is prohibitive. So we're trying to address both those items right now, and we'll be addressing them in capital or through the renovation project at the arena. But there are two items that need to be addressed immediately. So moving forward into 2023 and 24, we'll continue to implement recommendations from the facilities and rec master plan. And hopefully at that point, we'll have all of the renovations done at the arena, and we'll continue to work through the asset management program, etc. Last part of what I've got today is really sort of how this program delivery is unfolded within facilities and recreation, and how that's been delivered in 2021 versus, some of the plan and the approvals of council with regards to restructuring. We've had to make slight changes with regards to the winter and summer operations. Most of that has occurred simply because of COVID-19, and that being a fluid situation and having to respond all the time to new provincial regulations, etc., which has changed some of the staffing requirements. Certainly the idea that, the volunteer communities within our municipality have had no opportunity to be volunteers has also been a challenge. And that would be pretty straightforward, that if, council and residents are, used to a service standard, and that include volunteers from, say, Community in Blooms or, the Horticultural Society, and those people weren't able to do it. We've had to keep that same service standard because we have had the pressure through council as well as through residents to keep that same standard. So we have had to shift a little bit, which has happened. Certainly the the actual development part of what's happening does have some effect on this department as well, not as much as we would see in public works. But I always relate that to a growing community, and when you have a growing community like we do right now, is pretty close to 4%. To keep up, we will have to be able to change as we move forward here. So the last part of this for me is really just when we talk about the sort of changes and the risks that we have moving forward, our biggest one is going to be the aging facilities, and that we need to bring these up to a public standard. And that is very difficult, because that's going to take a commitment through the asset management program, as well as a commitment to fund these particular facilities. The other thing that's challenging is always this balance between revenue and expenditures. It does become important that our public buildings generate revenue. It's very important and it does make it easier to run recreation programs if we can generate revenue. And if I look at the arena when we first started this at 25 hours of peak time ice, that's what we were dealing with. 25 hours of peak time ice a week. That's 100 hours a month. I mean, I've never seen that in a public building before, and especially in arena. That is now up to about 60 hours a week, and that is a really positive thing moving forward. But you must react to those type of situations, because you need staff there, and you need to take care of it like a public building. Some of the practices that went on in the past, we have discontinued some of those practices. So if you rent the facility during the day, in the past, they never had any staff there. They just basically opened up the building and flooded the ice, and you could go in and use the building, and they went about their business. But that's not a safe activity. So that's just another kind of thing that we've had to look at as far as policy is concerned. And we've responded to those things. So generally, overall, I think the department was behind. There's no doubt. We're trying to catch up. It's certainly not the same situation in public works. We had a lot of capital projects that weren't completed. We've folded a lot of those into renovations, and we've moved those forward, and we've done the ones that we consider to be priorities. And we'll continue to move forward with a capital plan that's a good thing for the residents of Southwest Middlesex. So generally, that's what I have. We have a lot of training stuff that we do, everything from chainsaw training, sports turf management, maintenance, basic refrigeration, etc. And the department is fully integrated into the works module for citywide, which helps us move forward in work planning and getting work done. And I've just made a quick note at the end with regards to the restructuring that occurred in 2020. So that's kind of what I have to kind of bore you with today, but that's facilities and rec.
Okay, Greg, it certainly isn't boring at all, Greg, and thank you very much for doing that. I think you did very well to get through that. Any questions that council would like to direct to Greg through the chair, please do so now. Seeing none, Greg, I want to thank you. Before you go, I'll entertain a motion that the operations manager's business overview be moved. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Seconded by Councillor Cowell. Discussion. All in favor that we receive the report? Thank you. Passed, carried. Okay. Jill, I think we're on track. Colin, have you anything prepared for us today, or do you want to revisit it, or what's your wish?
If Mayor Mayhew, if I can jump in?
Yes.
Right. So the next one would be the public works side. I think that Greg only had the opportunity to facilities and rec. But up to you if you want to delve into that now or take a break. We were going to put Colin at the start of the next meeting.
Greg, I think we'll take a break. Greg, I think your dogs are hungry, and I think our counselors are as well. So I think we'll just finish off the rest of the agenda. And Greg, please don't take offense to that. We know that is the big game, so to speak, in our budgeting, and we certainly will look forward to that. And Colin, we look forward to yours as well. We'll see you down the road. Your department is exceptionally important to Southwest Middlesex as well for our health and safety. And we'll move on. Jill, there's no unfinished business. We'll make mention that the balance of Public Works will be given at our next meeting. And we'll look forward to Chief Sewell's introduction to his plans. We are at number 6. Would someone make a motion to adopt the recommendation, the bylaws as recommended? Thank you, Councillor Gill. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Wilkins. Discussion? Bylaws will be adopted as recommended. All in favor? Carried. Future meetings, we certainly look forward to crunching some numbers, Kristen, on November 10th. And Greg, we'll look forward to your report as well. And without any further ado, the chair will adjourn the meeting. And I don't see any hands. I don't want to miss anybody here, but the chair will adjourn the meeting. Thank you, council, very much. Thank you, staff.